Well, hello there and welcome to Travels with Geordie. If this is your first visit, my name is Peter Knowles and I live in this snowy wooden motor cruiser here in Victoria, British Columbia, along with the loving memory of my pup Geordie, all while fixing it up for some pretty ambitious cruising. If that's the sort of thing that you might find interesting, please consider sticking around and subscribing. Love to have you. Well, ho ho ho! Merry Christmas to you all. My goodness, this is an awful lot of snow for Victoria, and I can see I'm going to be busy this morning shoveling off Geordie. Although I'm very happy to see that the water line is not down very much, so weight is not an issue, at least until it gets really wet when the rain comes on. Well, as you can probably imagine, I didn't get up to the shed to work on Poem this week, so we're going to carry on with the 3D interior of MV Poem, and we'll carry on with the aft cabin, and which will answer quite a few of the questions that seem to have come along. For instance, yes, there is a bathroom.
And here we are back in our virtual MV Poem. Now, before we move into the aft cabin, I wanted to address a couple of questions that people had about what I've designed up here. One of the major issues, and I'm aware of it, is where does the fridge go? Well, I have a couple of options in mind. One is underneath the two benches. They'd be slide outs. However, as you can see, the bench that's behind the head of the galley would only open about 15 inches. And if I put another one under the helm, well, that's a little weird having it under the helm, but it is possible. The other option is in the aft cabin, directly behind the helm. Anyway, we'll get into that in a minute. The common concern, and it's valid, was the amount of space where you can work at the galley. And yes, it's about 15 and a half inches, which is very tight. And it's constrained. If I'm going to put a Beta Marine engine in, it has to be, the cabinet has to be far enough forward to cover that up. And I wanted enough room for reasonable side-by-side seating on the benches. So depending on how those two things go, it's possible I may be able to open that up a little bit. All right, let's go have a look in the aft cabin. And on the way back, I can show you the simple little flip-up Helms chair that a few people asked about. Should be relatively straightforward and reasonably comfy. Okay, then. This will be more like a tour. Everything is assembled. Let's start back here in the aft starboard side with a hanging locker. Actually quite spacious for a boat this size. I'm not quite sure why everything in my wardrobe seems to be a tan-colored shirt, whereas I almost only ever wear black shirts. Anyway, let's move on. Yes, there's a little head, and it's actually not that small. It worked out really quite well, regardless of the wide-angle lens foreshortening of the toilet looking like it's about the size for a mouse down there. This actually works out quite well. You'll forgive me for not having it fully developed yet, but it's also going to be a wet head or a shower, and I have a lot planned on for there, but it's relatively sophisticated, and to be fair, I haven't really figured it all out. Anyway, let's move on to stuff that I have figured out. And here we have a lovely residential-sized double bed. Well, not quite fully. It's tapered slightly at the foot to accommodate the curvature of the hull, but should be very, very comfortable for about this size, offering tons of storage underneath in pull-out drawers as well as a little night table. Well, to be fair, the night table is an absolute requirement because it actually covers up the transmission of the engine. Anyway, I thought this worked out really quite well, and with the extra space underneath the decks actually is nice and wide. Swinging around to starboard, you can see we have a nice, big, generous chest of drawers, which should be plenty of room for a few people staying aboard for a short while. Just forward of that, you can see set back a little bit is another cabinet, which may end up being the actual refrigerator. Yes, it's in the aft cabin, but it's only a step away from the galley, so that may work out just perfectly. Swinging aft a little bit, you can see a better view of the little chair, a little seat. I really, really like to put a seat in a master cabin, a place to sit briefly, to read, even just to sit, to put your shoes on type of thing. I love having a seat in a master's cabin, and it was really neat that there was enough room in here to do it. All right, so I think really the aft cabin turned into a nice little master's cabin. It's cozy, it's got everything you need, and there's plenty of space. Well, that pretty much sums up what I figured out so far. But in all, I'm really, really pleased with the way the boat is coming together. Considering how small it is, I think I've got all the stuff in that I really wanted to have, especially for a boat that's going to be used for short stays, and a more social boat, a place where you can gather and sit and entertain. Anyway, that's all I have for now. You may have noticed a lack of detail in the forecastle. And that's because I really haven't figured it out yet. It's tiny. It's less than 4 feet deep. So there's certainly not going to be a berth in there. It's not a cabin. It's going to be storage and possibly a tiny little nav station office place to do some work with a comfortable chair. But I got to play with that a little bit. So I hope you've enjoyed this brief diversion into virtual design. It's certainly been very beneficial for me to be able to see it all visually and turn some of the ideas I've had into something more tangible. Anyway, as always, I certainly welcome and encourage any comments, questions, or ideas. Put them down below in the comments, and I read every single one, and I'll try to reply to as many as possible, because this is it's an ongoing design, and I'm very open to your thoughts.
And as most of you will be watching this episode on December the 25th, for those of you who celebrate Christmas, Merry Christmas to you and yours. And to those of you who are having festivities of other sorts, I hope you're having a fabulous festivity in whatever it may be. Now, next week's episode is on New Year's Eve, and it's going to be a live stream rather than a regular episode, so we can have kind of a year-end chit-chat about this and that and talk about what we're going to do next year. And of course, there's always an opportunity for lots of questions and answers. So tune in next Saturday, New Year's Eve, at 2 o'clock Pacific time. That may not work for everyone, and I realize it's quite difficult for those of you in Australia and New Zealand, but it's the best I can do. Anyway, Merry Christmas, and see you on New Year's. Well, hello there, and welcome to the Travels with Geordie Beer of the Week. For you on Christmas Day, for us, we're actually filming this on winter solstice. Thus the beautiful homemade torture, which is Lady Zephyrus's masterpiece. I'm so excited about this.
It's the shortest day of the year and the best day of the year, because everything gets longer after
that. While we let this rest, of course we'll enjoy that with wine. Let's have a beer, and this is from Steamworks, a Vancouver. I mean, this is pretty much a mainstay of the Vancouver craft beer world, and it's their Heroica Red, and I thought that might suit a little beer before we get into dinner. Well, we've had some crazy weather.
Yeah, it's finally actually not as windy as it was all day, where it was howling.
Absolutely howling.
I think they said it was gale force wind out in the strait, and it wasn't far off here. And guess which direction?
Yeah.
Santa Claus!
Exactly.
That was northeaster outflow.
What they call the Arctic outflow. It was very, very cold for Victoria, on the tail of 14 inches of snow. I mean, an unbelievable amount of snow for Victoria.
For Canadians, that would be 35 centimeters of snow.
Anyway, a heck of a lot. And it basically brought Victoria to a standstill. It was kind of fun walking around in the streets with almost no vehicles out and about. So cheers. Heroica Red.
And happy solstice.
And happy solstice.
And happy...
And Merry Christmas.
This is where we say Merry Christmas, Happy Christmas.
All those things. Cheers.
Oh, yummy.
Yeah.
I haven't had that one.
I actually haven't had it. It's one of the very few I haven't had from them, and that really is quite tasty.
Maybe it's a newer one. Or maybe we just didn't know about it.
Didn't know about it, most likely. That's what you get for getting the big seasonal kit. It has all those beers in it you don't know. Anyway, well, let's just jump straight to the word of the week so that we can get on with our torchera and you can get on with your Christmas dinner. So the word of the week this week is going to be... Oh, maybe I didn't tell you. I only thought of it a minute ago. Festive. Festive.
Festive.
Because that applies for everyone. And I hope you're having a festive day. We're certainly having a festive evening.
It is a festive season.
It is. It's the festive season. So, to you and yours, in festivity. Cheers.
In festivity.
See you next week.
That seems like infested.